Today we have Mr. Darrell and his daughter Christie with us, Richardson. Their father and daughter team. They serve in Kenya. She works with hospice, still works with hospice care, and helping folks in that. They're full and part-time in ministry. She's an ordained pastor and chaplain, and working in church plants and building community and school and such, and she's going to share more about that in Kenya. And her dad is a retired CEO from the airline industry for a good long time. 5 decades is a long time. Yes, sir. When you say it like that, it appears to be a real long time, but I'm sure it's just like yesterday. But he has teamed up with his daughter to be able to support her and help her, and both of them working together and spreading the gospel into a part of the world where we would dare not go. One of the greatest things most people fear is the fact that God would call them into ministry and then send them to Africa, because we hear all the difficulties and how uncomfortable and the challenges there are there. But you know, I have friends as well besides this family that have been there, and it's just amazing to hear the stories, the beauty of the countryside, the beauty of the people, and their hunger for the gospel. So I'd like to ask them to come up today and share with us what God has laid on your heart and how you minister to those folks. Please come.
Well, we're glad to be here today. We live in this community now, so this is our home. And so we wanted to talk to you a little bit about our missionary work, why we became missionaries and so forth. So again, it's a great honor for us to be here. I hope you'll enjoy some of the things that we're going to tell you, some of the things that we're going to share with you.
I believe one of the things that we want to look at today is some of the questions that people ask us about being missionaries, and it pertains to everyone. One of the main things is, what does it mean to be called, and what does it mean to actually serve, and what are those differences? And I think that we definitely have looked at what serving is. I would say that serving is, in basic terms, the opportunity to fill a need. If someone is hungry, we feed them. If they're thirsty, we give them water. The calling would be, what would you say calling would be?
Well, calling is when God speaks to you and he has a particular mission for you. He has a particular thing that he needs you to go do. We've all been through the callings. He was very clear to me when God spoke to me on what we were to do. And you don't misunderstand that. You don't really say, did I just think that, or did he really call? No, he, as a gentleman in Haiti told me, who had been a voodoo preacher and he was now ministering for Jesus, he says Jesus reached down, grabbed him by the back of the neck and explained to him that you don't worship Satan, you worship me. So he became a street preacher. So it's really great. So you know that call. You understand it. You went through it. I went through it. You went through it. So we all know when we're called, and we all know we got a particular thing that we have to go accomplish.
I think the difference too between serving and calling is also the fact that with a calling, you can't explain it necessarily like how you got here. It's one of those, when I was in Kenya and having to come home during the height of COVID, I kind of got stuck there for an extra month and a half after Dad got home. But you actually have to, you actually sit there and say, if I'm praying to God, please get me out of this situation. I'll do anything you want me to do. Well, let me tell you from experience, God cashes that ticket in. And that's how I ended up back here into chaplaincy, into seminary, into areas that were really outside my comfort zone. Being in the mission field for me is easy. Being to serve God, to me, that was outside my comfort zone, believe it or not. And so I really did. He put me in places I didn't think that I could be in, and ways that I could serve. So when I finished up my hospital residency, after seminary, I actually went on job interviews where people would say, the interviewers would ask, well, what brought you to chaplaincy? I can't tell you. I don't know. It was a God thing. Like, he made this happen. So I think that the calling comes in different ways. It could be a voice. It could be similar things are getting put in your pathway. Or you wake up one day and you're like, wow, I've been doing this for a while. God really did put me in to do this, and this is what I am being called to do. So everyone gets that calling. It's just that we're all at different times when God needs us. And I think that's the important thing to look at.
And I think it is, and Pastor, you hit on it. You don't need to go get on an airplane and fly to Africa to be a missionary.
Right.
You can be a missionary right here in your hometown. There's people in this city who need your help. How many of you do you go knock on doors? Do you go, is there anything you need? We visit a lot of people in this area, and a lot of really people who are in bad shape. And there's a huge need in this area for that. Do they have food? Do they have electricity? Do they have heat in their home? You know, these are all things, these are all missionary things. So you don't need to go fly to Africa like we did to become a missionary.
Right.
Is that true?
Absolutely. So now that we kind of understand the difference between serving and calling, oh my goodness, how many of us have actually wanted to do a mission trip, but we just didn't know how to do it? We just didn't have the funds to do it, because it does cost money to do to go and do a mission trip, whether it's short term or long term. And so we want to kind of provide you a few ways that we saw through the process to be able to make this work, that anybody can do it, whether you go as a team or you go as an individual. There are different ways that you can actually do this. One of the ways.
Okay, so one of the things you can do is find a sponsor, right? Find a church or find a community that will sponsor you to help, because, you know, the airplane tickets, being an ex-airline CEO, the airplane tickets are very high. I told my daughter, this is a sort of a funny story. When I was the CEO, I could fly free anywhere in the world. If I wanted to go to Hawaii, I wanted to go to Europe, I just went, got on the airplane and went. We started doing missionary work after I retired. We're sitting, and by the way, it's first class, and we started doing missionary work. We're sitting in the back of the airplane in the last row with your knees up here eating peanuts, where I used to eat steak in first class. So it takes a lot to be a missionary, right? You have to find your lane, and you have to get in that lane, and you have to be satisfied with it. So that's pretty good. So sponsorship is one.
Yeah, one of the others too that is really easy to do is that we have the internet. So, you know, even 20, 30 years ago, we couldn't do the things that we do on the internet today back then. So for example, GoFundMe is a great idea. So I actually know someone, who wants to go on a mission trip, can't afford to, thinks that it can never happen. Fundraising is a great thing to do. And the reason why is this: the ministry is not only you going out and doing mission work, even if it's for a week, 3 months, a year, whatever it might be. Fundraising is great because it allows you to draw on the opportunities of others to help them serve with you as well. So when I say that, it's, I may not be able to go and be on that mission with you. However, I can support you financially. Maybe I can send clothes with you to donate or whatever it might be. So the ministry is not only you serving, the ministry is the support that you have behind you to get you on that trip and to be able to serve others. Don't take away from the ministry of people wanting to help you. That is their way of serving God as well. They might be called to do that. They might have the means to do that. They might have found a $20 bill out in the parking lot and thinking, oh my goodness, what am I supposed to do with this? I could do all these things with this, but God has a plan for that $20 bill. It might be to give it to you to help support your mission. So that is one other way. And then the other way that we thought of was the self-funding.
Self-funding, sort of what we've always done.
Yeah.
I've told Christie, and she's told me this also, we're the world's worst in raising money. So we've always self-funded, and that means you write the check, right? And so we were very fortunate when I retired. We were very fortunate enough to have enough assets to be able to go do it, and it was a little bit different for us. But it still takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of money to do it. But self-funding, or I call it bootstrapping, you know, that's another way that you can do it. And so that's the reason what's important with mission trips. Maybe in the beginning, you can't afford to do a trip to Africa, but maybe you can do a trip to Bamberg or anywhere or around here. So that's what's really important, I think, more than anything else.
I think too with the self-funding, our story was funny because we had a bike rental shop in Hilton Head because we lived in Hilton Head, and at the time before we left, and God had it in my heart that we were moving to Kenya. I don't know if you know that yet, but anyway, so anyway, yeah, I surprised Dad with a few things about Kenya. But I was like, God, you know, we need this much money to be able to go and to build the house and to do the things that we want to do, to build the school and everything that we were wanting to do. And lo and behold, this gentleman walks in and he's like, I want to buy your bike shop, and gave us a cashier's check for the business. And that's how we got there. Yeah. And so we worked very hard in that bike rental business, and we were very successful, and it was time to go. So you just have to be kind of mindful of different things like that God says, it's time for you to go. But we are the worst fundraisers ever. So
look,
yeah.
it's really simple. When God calls you, you take all of your assets and you sell them. Right? You sell them. We went to Kenya. We sold everything we had. We didn't own it. Well, we kept the Jeep.
We kept the Jeep.
But the Jeep in storage, thank goodness. But we sold everything we had, our computers, our furniture. We sold everything we had, got on the airplane. We had a 5-year business visa, and we said, we can get this renewed. We're not coming back. We're going to go and live in the community. We're going to help these people. And we did that. And so the question is, what would make you ever want to take everything that you own and sell it? And I think it's called a commission. When you're commissioned by God to do something, you don't need all this stuff anymore. You're going to be somewhere else anyway doing it, so you don't need it. So you take and you turn it into assets. Jesus said that same thing when he was here, is, Lord, how can I serve you? He goes, go sell all your assets, give it to the poor, and come follow me. And that's what you have to do as a missionary. You have to you can't be in it, one leg in, one leg out, when you do a full-time missionary. And I think that's the big difference between a short-term and a long-term.
Yeah, short-term missions are like a week, 2 weeks, different programs that you may see. Your church may do a trip to Honduras for a week or whatever, wherever you may be called to do. These are opportunities to plant seeds. That's what we do as missionaries. We plant seeds. We plant seeds not just for the immediate need. We plant seeds that one day we will not be there, whether we leave or we pass away, we're not going to be there. So can that community that you're serving survive after you're gone? How do you keep training people as you go? So even in short-term missions where you might have medical missions, you might have construction, school missions, those type of ideas, you can still do a lot of work in planting the seeds and train the team along the way, because this isn't, unfortunately, in some missions, in some areas, they know the missionaries are coming. I don't know how many times I heard that in Haiti. You're leaving and another group's coming in. But the difference is do you plant that mustard seed? Do you keep planting those seeds and keep teaching them? Come home, keep communicating with them. We have that thing called the internet still, right? So keep communicating with them and keep building it as you go. And the key is to stay in tune with the pastors in that community that you serve. So you can still do amazing work in short-term missions. If you go for a week and then you come back home, you can still do amazing work and still send stuff down and still go down there periodically. But just know that communication is key to keeping up that mission and to keeping the church alive in there and building those connections. So I think the one thing a lot of people ask us is, why Kenya? We could have, went to Canada or went to the Caribbean or someplace. Bahamas, yeah, it would have been nice. But we did. We went to Kenya. It was placed in my heart to go to Kenya. I was taking just a little course online. I think it was with Christian Leaders Institute, and this Pastor Thomas, messaged me on there, and he's like, hey, you know, I'm in Kenya. And I was like, okay. So